Well, it happened. A very pleasant good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here on the morning briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie Lubitz, Mr. Women's Basketball himself, Mike Lubie Lubitz. After all that hype, you actually forgot the game was on? This
Yes,
big showdown, the clash, the rematch of the national championship game that had inherent ugliness written all over it. I mean, now everybody's jumping down the bandwagon of LSU has been abused and everything's being misinterpreted and they should lay off these girls. And I'm in agreement with that. I mean, there's no need to make it ugly, is there? It's women's basketball. I was thinking about this, Louis. How often do you see girls actually running full court at the park? You don't see that. When do these girls learn these skills? The ones that actually are highly qualified basketball players. Where do they play? Do you ever see 3-on-3, 6 women out there at the park?
dudes. I think they look. I'm not being sexist. A lot of the times you'll see one chick or one woman playing with a bunch of guys, and I think
Yes, once in a while.
a bunch of those come together and play high school basketball because I never, ever saw a game of women. Again, we talked about this a long time ago, and I don't know if it was here. My wife doesn't understand the concept of pickup basketball. She thinks it's like a joke that you just go to a court with or without friends and just expect a game to come out, which every guy's like, yeah.
I mean, it happens. If you show up at a park, you can get into a game.
Any
Yeah.
park you go by, they're playing pickup basketball. But women don't even understand that concept because that's not something any woman I know ever did. So your question's actually pretty valid. Like
I was thinking about it. I was thinking that, some of these girls really do have basketball skills. A lot of them still are bricklayers. There were any number. If you measured, and Caitlin Clark, what was great in this game, 9 for 20. Anybody that ever shot a basketball from the outside that felt that they were some kind of sharpshooter could see that she has a great eye. Good form on a shot. It's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit different than you would see. It's not like you're watching Ray Allen go up with a jumper, but it doesn't have to be because she's effective. She makes them. Trajectory is always right there, and she can vary her shot a little bit. She's not inclined to pull up in the paint and take a jumper, but has a great eye, great feel for the game, fantastic player, and I would not want to play her one-on-one for money, Luby. Would you?
No.
I wouldn't want to play horse with her one-on-one for, solo for money. I don't know that I would want to do anything against her on a basketball court and consider that I was going to come out on top, especially not as a broken down shot fighter that I am at 72. And it's more than a hook now, Luby. It's more than a hook. But yeah, very entertaining. I thought it was great. Kim Mulkey being she has been painted as the villain. The article, I don't know. It's funny how you'll see people in all of sports. They'll and the greatest example of it ever. I mean, you never would have thought the bitterness that was being spewed out by Michael Jordan at his Hall of Fame acceptance speech. Well, everybody hated me. And I want to point out Johnny Schmo here, who was my 6-year-old coach, and he thought I couldn't play. He had me on the bench. Did he leave anybody out that he despised Michael Jordan, that he used as a negative motivational tool?
No.
But it is weird. I mean, you had last year, and this was Angel Reese, who had a good ball game. She appeared to hurt her ankle, and I don't know the significance of it. You can't tell how injured a player is while they're still out there on the court. I don't know that her game really fell off once she sustained what looked like a twisted ankle and some kind of ankle sprain. But she did grab 20 rebounds in the game. Holy Wilt Chamberlain had 17 points. But when you look overall, I mean, the number of bricked layups in these games and some of the shot selection, and you'll see a girl other than Caitlin Clark or, one of the prominent three-point shooters that are in the game, which only adds up to a handful. When they start shooting threes, you wince in pain, don't you, Lubie? I mean, a lot of times the quality overall of the game is not anywhere close to what you would think would be commensurate with the idea that you could equate it with the men's game. But I don't know that you have to. I think it's great that women are playing sports. That's fantastic. I always was an advocate for that. I always felt like women, from a social standpoint, missed out by not getting together with the so-called guys and playing ball and getting to understand each other. And you can figure out who's a dick and who's somebody you want to know and who's somebody you want to be friends with, whose game you admire. You could try to raise your game to the level of others that you see. You can copycat moves that work for other people against you and try to do them yourself. There's so much to be gained from it. And I always thought when I was growing up that women missed out on all of that as they were kind of left on the sideline. So I couldn't be happier or more euphoric that women are participating in sports in the widespread fashion that they are. Is that all relatable to Title IX, Lubie? Because I remember doing stories about Title IX when it first surfaced in California, and this was on my very first job. I was the sports editor of the 5,000 circulation daily Fontana Herald News. And it was a football coach, and all anybody wanted to talk about there was football. Football was big in Southern California. This is outside of LA. Fontana was a hick town outside of LA. Now it's a megalopolis unto itself, bigger than New York, my friend. Because all the expansion went, and you have to remind yourself to be dyslexic when you're talking about the West Coast, because all the flight was to the east, because nobody could afford to be in LA, and it was too much of a clusterfuck for even Vince Scully to deal with. I'm sure he was living out of town in his latter years. Yes, I'll just drive to the stadium today to Chavez Ravine. That would be great. But yeah, I mean, the coaches there were scared to death about Title IX. They thought it was going to be the ruination of all, and this was in the case of high school genre, of all high school boys sports. They thought this was it. It was going to sabotage every game. Now, that was far from the case. But would you say that the expansion of what's happened with the interest in the women's game is largely relatable to Title IX, where it was impossible for schools to eliminate these programs, and if anything, they had to start putting somewhat of the equal monetary and funding and equal amount of interest into promoting their women's programs? Is Title IX really at the essence of it all?
Yeah. I mean, Title IX was big. Title IX is what really sort of opened the door and made people take women's sports seriously. And for all the crap I talk about how I don't watch women's basketball, it doesn't mean I don't want it to exist. It doesn't mean I don't think it has a place. I'm grateful and appreciative that women are able to play. I just, again, like you, I actually don't know any women that played. So that was my thing. It wasn't impressed upon me as a big deal growing up. I watched it more when I was younger because you had names that Rebecca Lobo and then Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper in the WNBA.
Cheryl Miller was big. Sue Bird.
Like
Rossi.
Yes. So it made more of an impression then. I'm sure it's even bigger now. I just fell off of it, but I did. The women themselves didn't care. So it's like, okay, if the women don't care, why should I care? Like, to be brutally honest, it's
right. Women's sports fans weren't even interested in women's sports so much. Right now, it's good to see the evolution of it, and it's interesting because last night, of course, after the game, the LSU players, including Angel Reese, a very impassioned post-game press conference was happening, and excuse me, as she was saying that last year she was saying that it was the hate that was coming her way. The haters were the motivational tool for them to win the national championship. And this year she's saying that it was the hate that was coming their way that ruined their attitude and approach this year, and kind of was a real setback. It ruined their season and made them feel lousy about themselves. And I don't know that it's necessary, right? This LA Times columnist, whoever it was that put that article out, do they have a name? Was that written by an anonymous source? Because nobody's using a name associated with the article.
There must have been a writer, but yeah, you're not. I don't know. They haven't talked about it.
Are they still employed by the LA Times? Because it certainly was an embarrassment. This dirty debutantes, I'm assuming, and I wasn't even familiar with that phrase, dirty debutantes. Is that like Imus calling the Rutgers team a bunch of nappy-headed hoes? Is that the implication there, that they're no longer virgins? What's the deal on it?
It sort of feels like I haven't heard anything about this article. I just know Moki tried to get in front of another article, and then this article came out. I don't know. I just know hearing you say that doesn't sound right. Like it sounds. Like
it sounds ugly, right? It sounds disparaging. It's hardly what you'd think would be a flattering term. A dirty debutante.
Genteel, and these women are not. Well, first of all, women aren't supposed to be anything. Women can be whatever the fuck they want to be. That's weird. It sounds like your guy Phil Mushnick would have written that, to be brutally honest. Like it sounds very right slanted and very outdated. It would be a lesser term. It feels fucking old and unnecessary. Like that's a weird. Why would you? I don't even understand the need to say something like that in this day and age. Like men can be whatever the fuck they want to be. Like that's just a weird way of thinking to me.
I understand where the guy was going with it. I don't know. Was it a male or a female? I don't even know if it was a woman that wrote this thing.
I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Whoever wrote it just sounds outdated to me. It sounds like an idea.
Sounded like it came from a guy
from the 40s.
And that whoever the author was of this particular column was just trying to imply and set the stage that this was a battle, kind of like a Mayweather fight, right? where you're thinking, is there a more dysfunctional family than the Mayweathers?
Oh yeah.
Could you just pick any character out of the Mayweather family, with the exception of Jeff Mayweather? Jeff Mayweather was like the girl in what was it, the Munsters, where they had one normal person.
Normal one.
Yeah. Jeff Mayweather was also a trainer, but of little significance by comparison to his uncle and his father. And of course, Floyd Money Mayweather made a gigantic fortune by being the guy that everybody wanted to see get the shit beaten out of him.
Yes.
So I thought the gist of what the author of that column was saying, and I didn't read it in full. I've seen excerpts from it, and the most quoted lines are the disparaging remarks, and portraying the Iowa game versus LSU as good versus evil.
Like, that's bullshit. This isn't Duke with like fucking Christian Leitner.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, wouldn't necessarily be portrayed in that fashion. So, if nothing else, I mean, I don't know that was going to call more attention to the game or make people enhance people's enjoyment of it. If they said, "Hey, you know what? This is good versus evil here. Holy Thomas Hobbes, what are we talking about?" Exactly. But a lot of people didn't care for LSU last year with Angel Reese's antics, and yet Caitlin Clark was just as illustrative in pointing fingers in other players' faces, maybe not quite in the same fashion, but she was always gesticulating like she was Mick Jagger coming on stage for the opening number for the Rolling Stones, doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's just my problem. Like, look, Duke in the 90s had a bunch of people that did some grimy shit. So that's why people sort of gave Duke the white versus black, the whatever, but they also was good versus evil, because a lot of the time Duke became fucking evil and annoying. Like, LSU played rough, I guess, but they got shit because of how they were braggadocious and swag. But that's how Caitlin Clark plays. She has
exactly what she does. Yeah.
Braggadocio or braggadocio. I don't know what it is for women.
Whatever it is.
Anyone. Like, it's
better than calling her a dirty debutante.
More shit than anyone. So whatever you're saying about Reese, it's the same shit for Clark. That was the problem that a lot of people had, was you're using a weird lens for the two of them when they do the same shit.
Interesting, too, because they walk right into another matchup of good versus evil, because a lot of people perceive UConn to be in that category, especially with the, you talked about braggadocio. I mean, is there anybody that seems more pompous than Gino Auriemma? Oof. Is there anybody that defies all of the ethics of sportsmanship more than Gino Auriemma? So he comes in there now as a male version of Kim Mulkey. Another one of those college. And we asked this question, I think, sometime last week when all of this stuff was starting to come together. And that is, do you have to be an asshole to be a top-notch women's college basketball coach? They're all dicks. Every one of them. Unbelievable. That are at their top. Not everybody, but, nonetheless, it seems like you have to be some kind of hard ass that everybody has an agenda against, and you have an agenda with everybody that's out there. And feel like the world is after you. Almost a Nick Saban type of Napoleonic complex. You see that with Gino. You see that with Kim Mulkey. And I don't know, the coach, head coach of Iowa, who isn't that something? I mean, here's a woman that's been coaching Caitlin Clark, obviously has her playing at top-notch level, put a decent enough team around her for them to be in the Final Four last year. And again, look like they're headed for a championship clash, perhaps with South Carolina. We don't even know her name, because she looks like Sister Jean, for God's sake. So if you're not an asshole, you're not getting any attention in that game. So maybe that's another reason why it isn't so bad, and people shouldn't be as disparaging about it, because if you're not making some noise, who would have watched these Money Mayweather fights late in his career when he wasn't even throwing a punch for 12 rounds, where you're wondering where the action is and when it's going to start? The other guy is out there futilely trying to fight the guy, and he's just giving him the shoulder roll, and we're all paying $99 a pop. And then you're asking the people as they're leaving your house, hey, are you guys going to chip in? You said you were all going to chip in, because you feel you got fucked out of $100 for watching this dreck. And we would go right back and watch it again. So I don't know that... it's bad necessarily. I mean, maybe you have to be a little bit of a bad apple, so to speak, and somebody that's irritating and goes against the grain to draw the attention that last night's game got, which is kind of interesting because nobody cared about the second game, which also featured some real stars. I mean, stars in the women's game that you would have to say were of the caliber of a Caitlin Clark, maybe not quite at that spectacular level the way she's performed this season and last night. But this Juju Watkins, what was, highly hyped. out of
His
USC.
commercials.
You even had like Damian Lillard tweeting during the game, "You got to get the ball to Juju."
Juju Watkins is in commercials, national commercials, and Paige Beckers was Caitlin Clark before.
She's
Caitlin Clark.
excellent. Yes.
She's the one that was a star 2 years ago. I had never heard of
Right.
Caitlin Clark when she was like a freshman, and she was supposed to be the next thing. She had like Nike commercials, and she was a big deal. And then she kept getting hurt that year.
Because Gino had her in ball games with 37 seconds to go, and they were only up 47 over Holy Trinity, a high school team that they dug up out of New London. Groton was playing their games at the airport. Unbelievable. The only place where they had space wide enough to have a basketball court. But anyway, it all came down last night, and they make it into the Final Four. You still have South Carolina out there, the number 1 overall team, undefeated on the season there, with another coach that appears to have a little bit of an aversion for wanting to embrace the public, and that is Dawn Staley. Always seems to be angry, doesn't she?
Yes.
She's cutting down the nets, and she's mad. It's kind of crazy. And she was a commentator at one time, was she not,
Yes.
at ESPN? And I thought it was fairly authoritative, very knowledgeable. But I think she always had that same face on.
Yes.
Never changes her game face. That must be the thing. I guess that's the gist of today's morning briefing, that it was worth watching the women's game last night. I'm glad it got hyped up. That's good. Put them on the map. Caitlin Clark couldn't have measured up any better. Scores 41 points, 9 of 20 on 3-point shots. And she's not taking it with her toes on the stripe there. Wait out now. Is that a 2 or a 3? They'll have to look at that when there is a break in the action. These are bombs. I mean, these are shots from the Coke machine. And they're shot well. I mean, it isn't like she's just hoisting them up there and praying. This isn't some Hail Mary shot that she's taken. You can see she's got the eye. She's got the trajectory, spin on the ball. I mean, everything that you're looking for. I don't know that she's Steve Kerr, but nonetheless, she can chuck that 3-point shot as well as any guy that you've seen.
Yes.
So a lot of credit to Caitlin Clark and performing under that kind of a, I mean, you talk about a huge magnified spotlight. That was it last night. And she came through like a champ. So congratulations there. The game was worth watching, I thought, and overshadowed badly the second game, the USC UConn game, which was interesting because UConn had made now their 23rd Final Four. I think that's more than any team in the history of the sport. I mean, going all the way back to Naismith, they haven't had a team with that kind of dominance, level of dominance, and level of performance. So I guess congratulations are due. And like you said, this Paige Beckers was every bit the star. I mean, if she had not been injured through her career, and she would have sustained her name right at the top of people's thoughts when it comes to women's college basketball, it would be her and Clark getting an equal amount of hype, I think.
Yes.
But and that was badly overshadowed by the Iowa game last night. All right, now we got to run. We're off to a rocket start. We gave you the inside information right here on this platform that the Marlins under was a sensational bet. They've already blown leads of 5-2 late as the 7th inning. They took a 5-0 lead in a game over the weekend and lost. They took a 4-0 lead last night and lost to the Angels. Mike Trout hit 2 home runs that are still ricocheting around Biscayne Bay. Unbelievable. And the Marlins are off. They need 79 wins, and they now only have. Are we counting our money too soon here, Lubie? They have 157 games left. They're 0-5. We did give you Pittsburgh over, and Pittsburgh off to a 5-0 start. So if we lose these 2 future bets, then that should be it, right? This should be loser leaves town. You couldn't get off to a better start. Your horse popped the gate there and is 3 lengths in front, and the big 3-5 favorite was left at the starting gate, and the jockey was just about to fall off before he righted his ship, and now is 20 lengths behind the field. You couldn't get off to a better start than we did with our inside information special for the season, Marlins under, and our astute handicapping that brought us to the Pittsburgh Pirates being better than they looked on paper and taking the over in that spot. 5-0 in one spot, 0-5 in the other, Lubie. It's good to be the king. All right, you sick degenerates out there. A lot of fun being with you today. I can't believe we spent 14 minutes talking about women's college basketball and came to zero conclusions. Zero conclusions on that, except that, except that we didn't really understand exactly what a dirty debutante was, but I'm thinking, holy Don Imus.
Yeah, it feels douchey.
Yeah.
It feels douchey. Whether
Feels
a
ugly.
man or woman wrote it, it feels like it's pointed in a way that's not necessary.
That doesn't sound like a line that came from a woman. It really doesn't.
It does not.
Amazing, though, how, how is it possible that this author, remember when you used to read like some poem that was really boring and the author was anonymous? How did this author remain anonymous? Nobody ever mentioned their name. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks, people, for tuning in. There's more to come. We have all kinds of handicappers coming up on the Final Four, and we'll get you some inside information on that if we can. But I don't know that we can come up with anything quite as astute and intuitive as Marlins under for the season. We'll see you next time. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. That's today's edition of the Morning Briefing.